The late tragedian Sophocles once said, "There is no success without hardship." And this individual certainly had just as many hardships as success. Susan Boyle was born in Blackburn, Scotland on April 1st, 1961, as the youngest child in her family. Due to complications during her birth, Susan was briefly deprived of oxygen and had later developed some learning difficulties. Considering very little was known about autism at the time, she was unfortunate enough to be diagnosed with learning disabilities. Some would even go as far as to say brain damage. But don't worry, that gets corrected later in the story. Her misfortunes did not end there, though. Susan was often subjected to bullying by the children around her, and it took quite the toll on her self-confidence. A very sad but rather common story for many people in the autistic community. Be that as it may, there was one thing that gave her solace, even in the darkest times of Susan's life: her passion for music. Susan Boyle loves singing even up to this day. Probably something she picked up from her parents, who also enjoyed singing and playing music as well. At the age of 12, she began to participate in musical productions at her school, and her special talent quickly gained recognition from her teachers. They were so impressed with Susan's performance that the teachers would encourage her to pursue this career, seeing greatness in her future. So eventually, she did. Of course, getting into the music business isn't exactly easy, and it certainly isn't cheap. Before she could launch into her singing career, Susan Boyle needed to find some way to make the money she needed to achieve her goal. To do this, Susan became a cook at West Lothian College for a while. It was a nice, stable job that helped her get the funds she needed. Later on, Boyle began her studies at Edinburgh Acting School, where she would learn to cultivate her voice, performing in church choirs, karaoke bars, and even at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Her fine-tuning and education would soon pay off, as Susan won multiple talent competitions, growing in fame. In 1995, Boyle auditioned for a British TV talent show, My Kind of People. Although, sadly, it was unsuccessful for whatever reason, despite her doing well. Oh well, their loss, as Susan would not be deterred by a single setback. 4 years later, she made her rendition of Cry Me a River. While this may have exhausted her monetary savings with the cost of recording a demo and mailing it to different companies and competitions, it did end up getting very positive reviews. At some point, Susan's mother recommended that her daughter try singing on a larger stage. Britain's Got Talent, a show well known throughout the world. But be it either a lack of confidence or thinking she was too old to try, Susan had turned down that idea and kept focusing on what she was currently working on. Alas, with all this progress, tragedy was sure to follow. In 1997, Susan's father died, and as a result, she went back home to support her mother. Later, in the year 2000, her sister Kathleen had died from an asthma attack, which caused Susan to put her career on hold for a while. Lastly, in 2007, Susan Boyle lost her precious mother when she passed away. This devastated Susan, and according to some sources, she stopped singing in public. That is, until her singing coach, Fred O'Neill, encouraged her to get back out there and take part in Britain's Got Talent in 2009, honoring the wish of her late mother. And even though this performance originally aired when I was in high school, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Susan got on that stage, introduced herself, and said she was trying to be a professional singer as successful as Elaine Paige. This was met with laughter, along with cynical smirks coming from the audience. Nevertheless, Susan was fully prepared to sing I Dreamed a Dream from Les Miserables, a personal favorite of hers. Once she started to sing, the atmosphere changed completely. The audience's laughter turned to cheers. Their smirks turned to tears. Those who sat in doubt found themselves standing in awe of what they were experiencing. Within the first few notes all the way to the end, Susan captured the attention of all who watched, both from the audience inside the event and from home. Susan received a yes from all three judges, along with the well-earned respect from everyone in that room. Perhaps the one that was most impressed was Simon Cowell, which is no easy feat. For those who may remember him from American Idol, Simon was absolutely brutal in his critiques of the contestants. So to win over someone like him was an achievement in itself. In the end, Susan Boyle ended up getting second place in the competition. It may have disappointed a lot of people, including Susan herself, but I believe the true prize was changing the minds of all the doubters in that room. Besides making a point to not judge a book by its cover, she demonstrated that true greatness is not achieved simply by accomplishments alone, but in the hearts and minds of your audience. While Susan didn't take home the gold, her debut on the show was about to launch her musical career. For starters, the YouTube video of her performance made her a global phenomenon overnight. People who saw the video became captivated by the moment. In fact, the video was declared the most watched YouTube video of the time, even surpassing Obama's inauguration video. It's not every day you get to outdo the President of the United States of America. Several months later, in November 2009, Susan released her debut album, appropriately named I Dreamed a Dream. This would soon become a chart-topping success in both the UK and the US, selling more than 400,000 copies and more than 700,000 copies, respectively. Get this, a month later in December, Elaine Paige herself wanted to do a duet with Susan Boyle, singing I Know Him So Well, side by side. To this day, that video has over 54 million views. Elaine Paige even said that it was a pleasure to sing with her, and Susan was a delight to work with. Alongside Susan's rise to worldwide fame, in 2012, she went to talk to some medical experts of her own choice. It was then that she discovered that she was misdiagnosed. She, in truth, did not have brain damage. Rather, Susan has high-functioning autism, which she would reveal to the world a year later. Naturally, those within the autistic community were not really surprised about this news. All the same, they welcomed her with open arms. In the years to come, and even before her autism reveal, Susan Boyle had achieved numerous milestones, including 8 studio albums, 2 Grammy nominations, 3 Guinness World Records, #1 albums in 40+ countries, 128 platinum and gold album certifications, and ranking amongst the likes of Beyoncé, Adele, and Taylor Swift, and having 3 or more #1 albums in the UK, one of only 17 female artists in the history of the UK charts to do so. This doesn't even cover a third of what Susan has accomplished. No, trust me, there would not be enough hours in the day to list them all. Though there is one more event to mention. In January of 2019, nearly a decade since her first appearance, Susan Boyle competed in America's Got Talent, The Champions. You can probably guess who was really happy to see her again. Regardless of the end result, the difference between the 2009 showing and this new one almost 10 years later was night and day. No one was laughing at her anymore because the world knows who Susan Boyle is. A singer, an autistic, a contributor to charities, and a champion for those that don't think they have a voice. Her tale is one of hardships intertwined with success, from dealing with bullying that affected her confidence to the loss of her precious family members. Through determination and the support of friends she made along the way, Susan proves that it doesn't matter what age you are or if people around you doubt your potential. When you put your heart, mind, and soul into something you truly desire, then anything is possible. Now that this episode is over, I think I'll go listen to her rendition of Wild Horses again.